Live.
Welcome to tonight's Finance Committee, Monday, September 15th. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fisher,
Here.
Ms. Chesser.
Yep.
Mr. Dahl is absent. Ms. Crimer.
Yep.
Mr. Michelson is absent. I have heard from both Mr. Michelson and Mr. Dahl, neither are able to make it. Mr. Dahl is caught up with a contractor. Mr. Michelson has expressed that he is sick.
Motion to excuse Zach and Darren.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion? I put forth a motion to adopt today's agenda as posted. All those in favor? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I put forth a motion to adopt the minutes from our last meeting on August 25th? Does anybody have any changes? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Good job. Aye.
Motion passes. Next, Eric, do you want to give us the
I would be happy to.
financial report?
So for the fiscal year, August of fiscal year 25, the village had a combined bank balance of $3,640,078.39. Of this amount, $101,848.74 can be found in the village's primary checking accounts, and $1,816,125.84 can be found in the village's high interest savings account. The remaining balance resides in other village dedicated funds. The village generated $100,353.79 in general fund income tax receipts. Recollections are higher than August of the previous year by approximately 19%, and year to date by approximately 9%. The village already receives the first biennial disbursement of real estate taxes from the Hamilton County Auditor and homestead rollback funds from the state of Ohio. No changes there. Just a spoiler alert for the September report, you will see that we did receive that. More details next month. The village received $230,372.43 in general fund receipts. The number is $246,511.24 less than August of fiscal year 24. Again, because of the receipt of property taxes. Last year, we had already received it by August, this year not, which are still outstanding for 2025. That's offset by the repayment of advances, so that really that number is significantly higher, but the DA fund had a significant drop, and all of the advances that were set to the DA fund, that's in a total of $78,500, were repaid to the general fund. The Star Ohio Fund earned $6,440.38. The Third Savings earned $6,187.31. Top 5 pays for the month of payroll: Banzel Construction, that's the intersection project; Hughesat Paving and Excavating Incorporated, that is going to be our the park walking path project, DPS, and Jefferson Health Plan. Total village general funds appropriation spent for the month was in the amount of $280,883.28. This is just about where we were in fiscal year 24 by $113.47. That's the closest I've ever seen comparison year to year. Village had 26 outstanding payments that totaled $96,649.87. The village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spent and make any adjustments deemed necessary.
Thank you, Eric, for that.
So if I can get a motion to recommend council pass.
We do that all at council.
Yeah, we can just do that at council. Okay.
All right, next. Next topic on our agenda is Eric acting as administrator. So there's really two ways how to deal with acting officer. The one that makes the most sense is that what you do is you take whatever his salary is now and what the acting salary that he's acting in, and you take that middle part, and that's what you up to. That's the easy way of dealing with it. That also comes out to cheaper. So if we put that in numbers, we have 72. What's currently just public knowledge?
Yeah, it's public.
72, and Ron was getting 92.5. That would make it that if we want to up anything to 82,000. And that also goes to minimum administrator.
Mm-hmm.
This is back on that chart that he put together.
From
Today's-
2022.
Yeah, so today's average is higher than that.
So can I ask a couple questions? Because I think we talked about this briefly and we were asking for a recommendation at the last finance committee meeting. And so I did my own little research to try to understand this because I think we want to be careful with like the terms that we're using too. So you're acting administrator, right? Because interim means that we have a vacancy that we're trying to fill and that's not quite what we're doing here, right? In the immediate, right? So I think we want to make sure that we're using that acting and not interim because you're still also fulfilling your roles as the fiscal officer, which is typically what you see when you have somebody as like a temporarily acting as this other role on top of their current job duties. And some of the research I found is they talked about not actually doing a pay bump because of that exact thing. It's temporary. We don't know how long this might last. What they actually suggested is doing a bonus structure similar to how you're figuring out the math over there, David, but offering it, if we determine that there is a $5,000 difference and we want to break that down into however many months, right? We can set it up to where we're offering a temporary or a bonus paid out at the end of 3 months, say, and then if we need to renew it, we can renew it for another 3 months, but we're continuously doing that until we find ourselves in the interim position. And then that's when an actual pay increase and title change would come. But that's with the thought that we would have somebody covering his fiscal officer duties. Does that make sense? So instead of doing a pay bump currently, when we're in this unknown period, we would actually do a bonus. We could structure that however we want. We could figure out whatever that dollar amount that we feel is fair. And then at the end of this period that we would set, right, it's all TBD, but we could say at the end of 3 months, every 3 months, we're going to review this to see when it's like no longer temporary. And the bonus would be paid out at that point because we have a lot of unknowns.
So obviously, my seat is slightly uncomfortable because you're talking about me.
Correct.
At the same time, I just want to acknowledge that whatever the policy is set on this should be something that.
That's why I also want to be very careful that
consistent.
we're like creating a policy,
Right.
not just a temporary fill for you,
Correct,
because we've
because
also
in the
had this
past,
with Reed when he filled in for the chief,
Correct.
right? And if we ever have this again,
Yeah.
right, and that was like also a
And
TBD.
I did that for over a year.
Right, we had no idea how long, right? And I don't know that we handled that appropriately, but like, let's create the policy. What is acting? What is interim? How do we handle the two difference? Obviously,
I think you nailed the interim and the acting, the language is very clear on that. And it does state that the bonuses is the way to go versus the pay bumps, because how do you measure a pay bump? How do you
Right.
define a pay bump? But the bonus basically says, and you set terms at it, so you say not to extend 3 months, then you come back and you reconvene and you can
right, we
increase
can
the
always
bonus.
renew it,
Yeah.
right? But that also helps when like, so, because if we're in this situation where we have an interim, the interim is obviously, that means that we have a vacancy to fill. And we would then hope that whoever is filling that interim would apply for that. But if in the scenario where they're like, actually, I'm out, or they have applied and we're not giving them the position, you're not in the position where you're in the position where you would have to take away a temporary bump, right?
Right.
And because this is acting, this hopefully is a more short term. We don't want to be in the situation where we're like, okay, now we're actually asking you to give us back that money or that sort of.
I just want to say thank you for that clarity. I think I didn't have the clear distinction between acting and interim. I've actually been using the word interim because I wasn't.
I think I've
aware
seen
of
all of the
distinction.
terms being used, like interim, acting,
It's just
and
unclear because
sometimes I'm
it's
like, you're
a
also
lot
just the
unclear.
fiscal officer. So, right, I
So
think we just
depending on
wanna
what
be-
hat I'm wearing that day too is
Understood.
I appreciate
Yep.
the distinction. It's important, again, to set the policy and be consistent.
right.
Yeah, appreciate that clarity.
You're welcome. I typed it up for you too, so I can send that to you for the notes. But my recommendation is, David, however you were thinking about that math, let's come to an agreement on that. Break it down into like 3 month periods of how we would pay out the bonus. unless
Right,
we
so-
move that route.
Correct. So let me just.
Yeah, talk us through it.
Reiterate straight. So now we're gonna be obviously talking about an acting administrator. And this would be a bonus structure that makes perfect sense. The amount is on the table. The question, how do we figure out the amount? So there's one way we can take both salaries and divide it. Another way is we take what the going rate is. Now, the going rate and the paying salary is not the same. The going rate, but again, it could be hard to know exactly how to compare our administration to others, but the going for a fiscal officer is really 110 and administrator is 125. That's what official average.
Yeah, I think that's not based on our size.
No, so that's,
Yeah.
that's based on the county at large.
Yeah,
But the title fiscal officer is generally not used, it's generally finance director. So I
And city
apologize if that
manager,
was something
yeah.
that.
Finance director.
Yeah.
Anyway, but again, so we're not, but that's just to put out there that, yeah, there is the salaries for these positions out here are higher. For us, I don't know if we should even look at those numbers. I think we should look at what we're currently dealing with. And I think the midpoint is probably a smart idea. I was wondering what other people are. What do you think? Just new computers, right?
you have thoughts?
Hmm?
Do you have thoughts on how to figure out the bonuses?
Nope, I'm just listening and learning.
So Brittany, what do you feel?
I feel like I agree with you. We have to go with the pay scale that we have structured, right? I think if we agree to a 3-month term, let's figure out what our actual pay structures are for the next, for all of these roles, not just for this situation. Because I think they're a little outdated and I know it's difficult to figure out because we're not very comparable to even the villages of our size because they have larger budgets and more geographic area. So it's difficult to put those together, but I think if we have a 3-month goal, we can figure that out. So if we're looking at the current pay structure, which is in ordinance 2022-5, we've got on the base is 82, is that correct? Why this was scanned this way, I don't know. All right, so 82, and then the mid is 84.5, correct?
I don't think it opened up something like that. That's what you're seeing, then I trust.
Yeah, that's what I see. That's also 0 to 3 years of experience, which not that you don't have any experience, but in this role
Right,
is how I'm
it's
understanding that.
it's
So
not
yeah,
right.
so I'm using that line as
I think
well.
that's a fair rubric.
Great.
Not that you need my vote of confidence, right?
Fair understanding. Let me see. Do I have a calculator? with me? So if we just take the base of 82 and subtract that from you're currently at 72, is that correct, Eric? And I acknowledge this is
Whatever.
so uncomfortable. All right, so 9,000 divided by 12. So we are saying times 3. So it would be a bonus of $2,250 every 3 months, which I would say currently we're going to structure it as for 3 months and we can renew it and revisit it if we determine that the pay scales are actually out of date. And I think in this, we're also creating the precedence that we're using the base salary and the appropriate years of experience to determine this. We're not, so there's no confusion of like, are we using the mid, are we using the high? What is the correct number? Unless there's disagreement there. And then to clarify, I think the key would also be like sometimes you have been the acting administrator because of whatever our charter says, like if you're gone for 72 hours, 48, whatever that is. So we're not talking about temporary fills
Right.
in that manner. It's when the village council or mayor have appointed for a longer term, short term fill. Does that make sense? Cool. You want me to explain the math?
Wow.
You want me to explain my, okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfectly sense and within the structure that we have currently set up.
Okay.
Questions if our salaries are correct, the ones put
That's the work to do
together
over the
is a
next-
spreadsheet of-
So you're saying every 3 months a bonus?
Every 3 months, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll review it, like, it's not just automatic. We gotta,
Right.
this one will
Every
happen.
3 months, okay.
We'll review it.
Or is only for council?
Oh, no, I think you're correct. I did that.
We did it like 2 years ago. That's not just looking
Try and find it.
So you might have an updated chart, but we'll have to
I
pass that
definitely do.
legislation.
Correct.
Right.
That
Yeah.
doesn't change what we're doing, but I
Yeah,
just remember.
But
that
let's
we did
let's
that
pull
once.
that.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
definitely do. I now that you're saying this, I remember that it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then Eric, are you clear on the process? Do we need to
If you pass
enter in
it
a
as bonus-
contract?
Say it again.
Do we need to have Butler create a contract for this? Or,
My understanding is a voice vote is adequate.
I
This is
think-
not
That's for a
the-
bonus.
Yeah, no.
Bonuses are less complicated in that, but there are certain things that it's not eligible for, which, whatever. it's-
Correct.
It's a separate thing,
but are you, like, do we feel like we need to identify what we're asking you to take on in the acting role? And maybe that's a question for Rob outside of this, but,
Yeah, I guess that would be.
and like you are agreeing to take on this acting role, and this is the,
it would just be
reward
the
for
job
that.
Description that is, up there for the administrator.
right, on top of your existing job
Right.
description is the,
Yeah,
right.
let's use Ron's.
yeah, but,
Yeah, there's a few times where that's not gonna work because there are certain contracts that I cannot sign as both fiscal officer and administrator.
Right.
And in those cases, it defers to the mayor. And we have done that with some of the
Right.
OPWC draws. They'll require 2 signatures and I have
Right.
gotten his signature on the second.
got it.
But that's the only other case where I can think of where that would be incompatible.
Okay. Cool. David, do you have a motion?
Yeah. So I put forth a motion to adopt in this current situation, to basically, I don't know if we have to, in order to make it a rule, we have to figure out which way is the best way to do this. But in this current situation, to use the setup that the acting administrator will take, here will be 9,000 bonus that will be divided into quarterly.
Yeah, but we're just gonna break it into, we're just gonna address the first 3 months.
And that's gonna be $2,250 for the first quarter.
Yeah.
For the first 3 months.
So motion to approve a quarterly bonus of $2,250. And let's actually not say quarterly, let's use 3 months, just because we're not quite at the beginning of a quarter.
And this is gonna start from today or start from we took over?
I don't know if we can make this retro.
I mean, bonus, we can decide how to do it.
I guess that's true. How long have you been doing this?
We said it's been 2 months,
2 months, yeah, you started in July. Great.
July 11th.
So we'll say October 15th would be the first payout.
So that's before the next council meeting.
Yes, but we could approve this in the
Right, 100%. So you're saying this should be a lump sum?
lump sum, the
At the end of the 3 months.
2,250
Okay, all right.
lump sum at the end of each of the quarter, or each of the 3 months. Yep.
Okay.
Because if you did that after 2 months, sorry, you don't get your bonus.
I'll second that motion. So to be clear, we have a motion on the table for this current situation to allow a 3-month bonus, a bonus for 3 months of acting administrative work at $2,250, starting from.
Retroactively from July.
And I have a second.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye. You talk so low.
It does talk low.
Okay, we would recommend that to full council tonight.
I'm starting to hear.
Okay, the next item that we have is for the police department
Mm-hmm.
is requesting more money for overtime and part-time shift coverage due to the fact that some officers are out on injuries. And therefore, in order to keep our department up and running, we need to be able to get more part-time people, and therefore we need to be able to move over some money. This money is not coming out of our budget, it'll come out of their reserve. To get more information on this, Eric, do you want to speak up a little bit, or should
I
I
can
ask?
speak on the numbers, but obviously I can't speak to operations. I would defer to Captain Reed. I guess it depends on the questions.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
What do I want to know?
Yeah.
Are we first clear with what the ask is?
Yeah, they need more money because they've got folks out, and we're looking at, according to the fiscal officer letter, we are
So I hope that was
looking,
helpful. I thought
that was very helpful, yeah.
I didn't even fully understand the problem myself until I tried to explain it, and I realized that the reason why it's so expensive is because you have to pay sick time and you have to pay.
That results in overtime as
Right,
well.
and
Yeah.
the number that I gave there, 61,000, is not including overtime. Like, once you,
Right.
if it would be fully overtime, 78. So it's somewhere in between the two of those. It would be quite arduous for me to
Try to,
pinpoint that.
yeah, crystal ball it.
But cutting it in half is something I believe the budget can sustain, in addition of just the half.
Right, so just so I'm clear, so we're asking for an increase of 38,000 and change.
Correct.
We've paid out 17, almost 18,000 in sick time for one of the injuries. We've got a second injury that was about 8,700 in sick time cost.
That's so far.
Yeah, to date. And then the projection for the year is 61,000 and change, right? And that's not the sick time coverage. That is just the folks, or are you adding those
I
three
apologize.
numbers?
That's sick time and that's
And the overtime.
overtime.
Okay.
Well, either that's sick time and part-timers. If it's overtime, it would be 78,000.
Got you. Okay, understood.
I'm giving them a more conservative
Yeah.
number if we can fill every shift with a part-timer.
Got you. But can you help me understand this number down here? So the overtime budget for the year is 106. Does that mean that's what we've spent already throughout the year?
No, that's the total.
That's what you have in there to cover all
I
these.
apologize. I probably used the inappropriate word budget. I should have said appropriations. We have $106,131.98 appropriated for all overtime, like total overtime.
Right.
Which generally speaking does
Is
not
enough.
also include sick time and other,
Yeah.
right? It's just that's our overtime budget.
It's general overtime, not like overtime to cover for sick leave or absences
Correct.
this long term.
For
Got
like
it.
long-term.
But-
basically, it should be able to subsume some of that on smaller,
Right, but not this longer term.
I mean, this is like,
So
this is more than half the budget.
yeah, so then, but all of that said, all of those numbers, what the police department is asking for and what they need is the $38,220. And that's what we're estimating will get us through the end of this
Yes.
calendar year.
Yes.
Okay. Got
And again, that's, please God, there should be no more injuries and there should be no other, but like, this is based on current trends, based on the current data that we have.
Got it.
And I've been working very closely with Captain Reed. We have pretty regular conversations about the budget, and I've seen that they definitely are doing whatever they can to reduce that overtime, but it's not just the overtime, it's the sick time in
Yeah.
conjunction
Yep.
that is just pushing it over the edge.
Gotcha. Which that sick time is a liability for us anyway, but that's not included in the current budget?
Correct. So the way that I wanted to address that previously was to introduce a new fund to basically take money from the general fund and put it into the benefits pool fund, which would cover all sick, vacation, holiday, any basically PTO time. Mr. Butler was extremely hesitant to move in that direction because the creation of new funds without precedent is not simple.
Yeah. But why would it come from the general fund? It should come from each of the department budgets. It should
Well,
come from
every-
wherever they're funding.
Yeah, I mean, everything
Streams.
technically comes from the general fund.
Right.
On stuff like that. The bulk of all of these personnel costs comes from it, but it doesn't have to. It could come from the police levy, it could come from whatever if there is money there
Yeah.
could always come from that.
Because in reality, if you're just using this, it should be paid out from that fund.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's where the
totally-
liability, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's totally.
All right. This makes sense to me. I don't have any other questions. But, I guess last question. These were off-duty injuries, is that correct? They were not,
Correct. One is on duty, one off duty.
okay.
But again, to clarify, last time I misspoke and said that there was light duty that was happening. And after looking at the sick time banks that were used significantly for these injuries, it is, I mean, clear as day that this is all sick time. This is not light duty.
Okay, well, Chief Campbell also was saying it was light duty. But these are not things that we could, folks could go on like a short-term leave for, or like,
So you do
or
understand,
workers' comp.
short-term disability costs the village a lot more than light duty does. So. when
But we
look
just
at-
said they're not on light duty.
Well, we can put them on light duty though. We can put one on light duty. Injuries that occur on duty can be light duty injuries. Obviously, an off duty injury is not a problem, right? So when we look at like pay continuation, things like that, we start doing BWC, it makes more sense to put an officer on light duty. Lieutenant Forrest was working, and I don't mind, he's gonna be okay to use his name. He doesn't mind doing what he can, but given the nature of his injury, he can't do light duty currently. So he can come in and he can answer phone calls, he can greet visitors in the lobby,
Mhm.
he can go down, file charges, he can do just about everything other than fight somebody. So that's probably 1/10 of our job, so he's doing about 90% of his job function. That's saving us the sick time, and that's also saving us the overtime because there's a physical presence in the building still.
Mhm.
He's removed currently due to his injury, but he will be back. The other one is strictly, that's gonna be off duty, that's gonna be sick time. But we have the part-timers, thankfully, that cut this cost in half, because if we're paying our overtimers, we've seen this before, we pay our full-timers overtime, we're talking twice, 3 times as much as what it costs us normally. So ideally, the part-timers are gonna get us through, and it's a small ask in reality, because if we start looking at short-term disability and workman's comp and everything else, which the on-duty injury is not going to workman's comp, for clarification there, that's saving us a lot of money. Eric can attest that if we start putting everything to workman's comp, our rates are going to skyrocket through Sedgwick.
Mhm.
Know that.
No, I understand that, but short-term disability, the insurance would cover a portion of that pay. That's why I was asking if that was an option or not.
So from the research that I was doing and, speaking to Mr. Butler, he said that there's much more likely for there to be a paid interruption for employees, so obviously that becomes a burden.
Yeah,
to
during the
employee.
approval process, yeah.
But I think that only would apply to an injury that was on duty, is that correct?
No, short-term
No,
is just for
short-term.
the insurance, but it's only like 64%. So I mean, you're selling your employee out if they're losing 42% of their income. Short-term disability doesn't give you 100% of your income.
No, I understand that.
And
And
that's not what we want to do to our
to be fair,
employees.
I'm not saying that we need to do this, but I'm just trying to, again, we just had this conversation about our village administrator in the interim. So if this is like a 6-month problem, I'm like, people won't have 6 months of sick time. So that's what I'm
We
trying to
understand that,
understand.
yeah, but I think you're getting into management personnel. If it's a 6-month problem, we'll address that in-house. This is not a 6-month problem. I think if we were presented with a 6-month problem, like the administrator, we would come to you guys and let you know there's a bigger issue. Because I think in 6 months, you're looking at FMLA, you're looking at potentially losing your job, which nobody wants to have happen, but we're a small PD. We can't sustain a 6-month injury that is not on duty. An on-duty injury that's 6 months, it's a different story. You
We
know, it's-
sustained the chief for over a year, right?
Well,
I'm not sure
I plead
where
the
the
fifth on that
policy-
one, so I'm not even gonna talk to, but yeah, I agree with that, but that should never happen.
But this
I'll
is,
just leave
I
that
know,
there.
so I'm, just to be clear, I am asking questions to understand.
No, you're fine.
No,
And
I know,
I'm
but
telling
you're
what- what
interrupting
the-
as well. I'm trying to like just get it all out,
Okay.
and ask the questions.
Okay.
And
All right.
So again, what was your question you're trying to get an answer?
I don't even remember at this point. I think it was like if sick time was the only option, or if folks were on light duty, like the chief had talked about, or if short term.
Well, so,
Was an
so
option.
I think.
But I think we've
your
covered
question-
it, and we don't have to go deeper.
Well, if I can, how I understood your question was if a person was injured off duty, then maybe they should be going on short-term disability. So the village does not provide.
I know, it's a
short-
voluntary,
Right, okay, so you understood that. Okay,
Yep.
so that would be the only,
right? It would depend on if they took short term as a voluntary policy, and if they wanted to run through their sick banks,
Right.
or if they could take the 60% pay.
So in both of these cases, you're talking about longtime employees who did have significant sick banks. And,
Right.
I mean, as you said, that is a, kind of an unfunded, liability, but at the same time, we don't necessarily want to fund that every year because we don't want to plan for those kinds of injuries to happen every year. We want to, unless it's in its own separate dedicated fund, which that's.
Right, but you also have to prepare to pay that out if somebody leaves.
So that's where it would have to change.
Other conversation, yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
Either which way, then, one day's gonna hit us.
Yes,
100%. Yeah, and the
So
difference
it's
is
something that we
if
have
it's
to
at the
think
end of their employment, it's only 25%, only if they're here 10 years.
And it's capped.
So there's,
Correct.
so the only cases where you end up getting kind of stuck are if the person has a significant liability. I mean, this is a very odd case. The way that I'm like, how in the world could we have planned for this? I would never want to put that much extra money into the budget to cover, an extra $61,000 of potential, if we don't know that it's going to happen. Like that, I think that sends us a false sense of where the budget's at. Which is why I really think it's important for us to create a separate dedicated fund for all of this. But I've had trouble getting clarity on that from Mr. Butler.
got it. So you need a motion to authorize $38,000.
Recommend to council.
Yep.
That this would be on the next appropriations, which would be on October 27th.
That's the next
That's the next
finance?
council meeting.
Okay, so it's not something that we need to approve
It-
tonight.
Well, meaning the discussion happened tonight, so my ask would be, since the discussion has happened, as long as it is okay with you, I would ask that you approve it so that when we do have this as something in front of council, we can say, this has already been discussed and we don't have to revisit it. If you'd rather revisit it next time, table it and revisit it, I'm happy to do that. I just think.
Nope, just asking if we needed the clarification to have council approve it tonight, or you were pushing it to the next one? And it's coming.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to have Mr. Butler do this.
Yeah.
There was like 5 other items.
Yep. And the recommendation is to come out of the police levy reserves,
Yes,
correct? Okay. All right,
Which is currently in there.
a lot. I'd have to look it up, but it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, that's because of the EMA ARPA. So again, when stuff like this comes, we can absorb it and it doesn't hurt because we have this significant cushion from that grant.
Okay, so I'll put forth a motion to recommend to council to approve this 38,220 to cover for part-time shift coverage and help the police department keep their service running. Do I have a second?
A second.
Everyone in favor, all in favor?
aye.
For that, that brings us to our next scheduled meeting. Is that on your paper also?
What is it?
The next scheduled meeting is for today.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't update that. It's October 27th.
Our next scheduled meeting is October 27th. With a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, second, just kidding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
The next meeting is when, October what?
27.